All right. Welcome everybody to the very first Born of the Gods draft. You'll notice this is the very first pre-release of online 10 a.m. Mike and I jumped in the same queue, which is pretty sweet. I need to take some time to be looking at these. Actually, let me pop out the card window because we're going to want a pretty nice view of all of these cards we're taking a look at. So, when I know a lot of the commons and uncommons, I'll try to go as quickly as I can and get through these. Where we have Fate Unraveler, Enchant Creature Hag, seems pretty good. Whenever an opponent draws a card, deals 1 damage to that player. 3/4 for 4 is good, although I think this Spiteful Return is a little bit better, but on the pre-release I'll probably just end up taking the rare just to kind of start learning about it. This just like kind of pings the player quite a bit. Searing Blood, very good red removal spell. Red, deals 2 damage to target creature when that player dies, deals 3 damage to the controller. I need to kind of look a little bit quicker. Thunderbrute's really good. Felhide Brawler is fine. So black isn't particularly amazing besides this rare and uncommon. Ooh, and I'm really stoked to get a Spiteful Returned uncommon to go with my black. I wasn't really looking to do anything forcing black like I did in Theros, because I think it got a little bit weaker with the Born of the Gods packs, but we'll see. There's a Crow and Skyguard I think is really good, and it's kind of where I want to be in blue-white heading into Born of the Gods, but don't really know. I should also mention at this point that all I've done with Born of the Gods is one pre-release in the card shop, so I'm pretty new to all these different pieces. But hey, doing lots of bestow is always a good thing. Let's see, Pillar of War, Unravel, choose, turn, its owner shuffles it into his or her library. Okay, it's kind of like a destroy effect. I don't care much about the Servant of Timuret as an Inspire, though I'm sure it'll be a fine filler in 1/3. So I'm totally drawn to the Crow and Skyguard, the Retraction Helix, which I think is good, though not insane. This card looks pretty bad. That looks pretty bad. Yeah, I'm kind of happy with the 2 blacks we started. Ooh, Ragemonger I think is really good. Although I'm not too sure if I want to start getting into another color yet. What does this guy do? 2 inspired, you may pay. Oh, this is one of those inspired pay and get zombie guys, although there's other cards that get stuff. Not too sure how much I dig it. This Nyxborn Wolf I think I really like. Marshmist Titan would be good in a heavy black deck, but I'm not really stoked to go in on that yet. Divination's always good. I like the Crow and Phalanx, but that's so far from what we're doing. I think the picks are between the Nyxborn Wolf or the Ragemonger. Special note, this Elite Skirmisher I think is pretty cool. Pretty fine at a 3/1 for 3, but then also being able to tap down a creature with Heroic can get there. Not worth jumping into another color. I kind of wanted to try the Minotaur deck, because I think it could be good finally in Theros. So I'm gonna go ahead and play around a little bit and try this Ragemonger. I have no clue if it's gonna be that decent. Here's a removal spell and another Nyxborn Wolf, which I'm pretty excited about. The Black Oak of Odinus I think can be good, but if we're looking to beat down, it may not be grand. And with some of the cards we have here, maybe I do want to start getting into like a green-black, a little more aggressive-y style. And I think seeing another Nyxborn Wolf makes me want to get in on the green. This is the first blue I've seen that I'm really excited about, the Nyxborn Triton. Obviously, I'm kind of leaning towards bestow stuff, it would seem. That could just be because I'm so into Theros that I really love such cards as that. I'm not seeing the really good black removal spells, so black isn't entirely opened, but I do think we have enough of a basis to consider going there. I'm just trying to see if I can have any sense of what is open and what's not, and I don't think I do. So right now we're going to stick with a nice bestow creature in green. It's the second one we've seen of it, and I really kind of dig that. Ooh, Siren of the Fanged Coast? I don't know why this is still here. This guy is absolutely insane. We haven't seen a lot of other blue, though. I'm happy to jump into it now. I don't know if this is people not evaluating it properly, but this guy is awesome. Dawn to Dusk, I think, is also fairly good. At least it worked well in the pre-release. Maybe different in sealed. Setessan Starbreaker, 3 and a green 2/1. Not so exciting. More of a sideboard card. This will, if I stay in black, will end up filling out the deck just fine, although I'd rather have like a Fairies Band Trumper if I end up going into green-black. But man, Siren of the Faint Coast is way above anything else here, right? Chorus Follower, whatever, if you're in those colors. Yeah, dude, I mean, this is an Air Elemental or a Mind Control, so this is never going to be bad. I have no clue why Siren of the Faint Coast was still there. So if that's the case, and I'm reading, wow, and a Fall of the Hammer? Ooh. This might be one of the issues with new formats and pre-releases where I might be rating certain amounts of signals a little too highly. Like if I'm considering these strong signals and other people aren't, it could just kind of wonk out. I don't want to take Fall of the Hammer here because I really only, it's kind of like taking another card, and there's actually some decent cards here. Sphinx the Disciple isn't insane. Ashias Adept isn't insane either if we're trying to keep the black theme going. And then Deepwater Hypnosis is way worse than the Disciple. I don't know if I want to take another 5 though, but I do think that like a flyer and being able to draw the cards tends to be fairly oh, no, not Way of the Underworld. Sorry, I thought that was a different one. Still, Way of the Underworld's good, but not what I wanted. Here now, still seeing another Nyxborn Wolf, which I think is better than Nyxborn Triton, and a Divination. So I'm looking to maybe go into this green-blue shell. And because Siren of the Faint Coast is actually my favorite card, I'm going to stick to blue over taking another Nyxborn Wolf. I think they're pretty comparable, and it's really just a color consideration. Again, if I need to kind of like jump between the two. Wolf, though, better, because that added power, I think, is way more important. And God-Favored General, I think, is going to be absolutely horrible in any kind of deck. Happy to take that Triton, though. What does Crypsis do? Trigger control from creatures your opponent control until end of turn untapped. I think this is fine in blue. Listening to the Limited Resources podcast, I think Marshall made a really good point suggesting that since blue doesn't normally get combat tricks, this tends to be a little bit better in blue than just if it was evaluated in a vacuum. So I'm kind of tempted to grab it. Or I'm kind of interested, if I start going into a green-blue build, then maybe I want this Trumper here. Black completely dried up, and red was never really a consideration. So it's between these two, and I'm going to take the Trumper and kind of see where it goes from there. I don't think the Favor or the Charging Badger are playable. Warmonger's kind of boring. I guess the Serpent's fine. I already have 2 5-drops, both which are better. But if I'm just trying to stay on colors, I think I'd rather have another creature than a Nullify, which I'm not looking to be playing ever. So yeah. What does this guy do? Enters the battlefield. Reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land card. Don't care about that. Don't care about that. I think the Greatheart's the best card here. And then some random mill. I'm just going to cut the Greatheart. Yeah. First white. Wow, and a wolf was still here. Okay. Ragemonger's out. We're not doing that thing. Yeah, I'm happy just to take another 3 with a Bestow that also, I think by itself the Nyxborn Wolf's going to be better than Snake of the Golden Grove, and even that will be playable, but I have plenty of 5-drops, and I'm going to have now 3 Bestow creatures that move into 5. So that will be fun. Let's see. What does Sunbond do? Whenever you gain life, put that many on this creature. So there's not that many ways to gain life, and wasting a 3-mana aura on it, probably not a good idea. And like I said, here's a 4-drop that would round out the black 4s if you needed it. But right now, I'm pretty much anticipating going, target creature blocks this turn if able. That's probably horrible. I think I will take the Drifters here now. I'm hoping that the blue-green will continue to kind of flow in the 3rd pack. It's kind of my suggestione. I don't know. Hopefully, you guys weren't too overwhelmed as I kind of pounded through this set of cards. Tried to maximize each and every time on the picks to learn stuff. So now we're in familiar territory. And wow, this is a pretty fun pack. Maybe just because I'm able to evaluate things a lot nicer. Grey Merchant is strong, but we kind of moved away from black. Wingseed Rider, of course, is awesome. And there's no real strong green card. I'm kind of leaning towards this Emissary. Oh, sorry, I said no strong blue card. I was pointing to the Omen Speaker. It's a fine 2-drop, and we do need 2-drops. I think unfortunately the Wingsteed Rider thing has passed. Possibly I could do the Grey Merchant of Asphodel thing, because we'll probably see some black in this pack since it was cut from our first one. But I'm kind of happy to shore up the 4-drops. Our 4s are kind of weak when you take out our black, and this is definitely a sideboard card. So we'll take an Emissary. I would wish it was a Shelley, the Thassa's Emissary, instead, but I'm not particularly bummed. Ooh, lots of great cards here. Still gifting white to the right. I could arguably take this Emissary, the Heliod's Emissary, to splash because it's that good, but I'm kind of interested in these two cards, both which I need in my deck. We'll take the Leaf Crown Dryad for versatility, though Time to Feed, we are going to need to start looking for some types of removal spells. I'm going to go ahead and hide the black for now and assume this is the base. And this is a pretty solid base. We have 2 dorky cards with the Aspect of Hydra and the Floodtide Serpent. And that only puts us at 7 playables from the first pack, which is weak, but that kind of makes sense looking at how I'm still evaluating the cards and was really spreading over kind of like a broad group of colors as I waited to kind of learn the cards and see what was open. So yeah, we'll take the Leaf Crown Dryad here, though I wouldn't mind a Time to Feed pretty soon. Happy to slam the Asp, sad to see the Insatiable Harpy, but I'm going to have to be disciplined about this and know that, like I said, when I see black, I'm going to be past black and white. Those were 2 pretty solid colors that were cut, but maybe we'll continue to get rewarded with these good green cards. The only negative of the Asp is that we kind of already have 5-drops, but Asp is way better than Floodtide Serpent, so I'm super happy to upgrade my power level there. Also happy to grab a Wave Crash Triton over an Agent. We might even see the Agent from the pack I just passed, Table. And Wave Crash Triton, even though we don't have the ideal deck for it, being the white-blue deck, this is still going to be pretty decent. We already have 4 good bestow creatures. 1's great, and these other 3, they are only 5 for bestowing. So it's not like it's a 6 or 7 mana bestow, such as Nylea's Emissary. So we're going to pretty regularly be able to make use of the Wave Crash Triton. Yeah, I like that. Really, I just want to see if I can't get things like a Voyaging Satyr. I'm really happy to see here to round out the 2-drop slot, and other ways to start interacting with my opponent, like Time to Feeds, Voyages, Ends, Sea God's Revenge, things like that. Even better combat tricks like the Savage Surge. Since my curve does top off at 5, well, I guess 6 if you count that. I'm not too stoked in Karametra's Occult over the Satyr. Plus, like I said, I want to round out the 2-drop slots. So let's take the Satyr. Here's Baleful Eidolon. My favorite buddy ever. We've seen no blue this pack, so someone kind of went pretty down on that to our left, which is probably going to hurt them pretty hard because I anticipate seeing more blue in the 3rd pack. I mean, I might be putting a little too much on the Siren of the Fanged Coast as a signal, but I do think it's really strong. And maybe there was another good blue card in the pack that I grabbed this, but there was an earlier late Nyxborn Triton, plus I got this Nyxborn Triton. I'm pretty sure that pack 3 we should get a couple of decent blue cards. Ideally like 2 Voyage's Ends. Anyway, for this pick, I could take a sideboard card. I don't need another 5-drop. I could just take an Nylea's Presence if for some reason, that's something I want. There's nothing I'm too scared about here. Maybe I could cut a white, but we'll just stick to our game plan. Ooh. Here's 2 great cards I would love to have. Nylea's Disciple works really well in the deck right now, and we wouldn't mind a nice card to round out some of our 4s, and we're going to gain some good life off of it. Sedge Scorpion, though, helps us stay alive, but that's really not my worry right now. We have good 3-drops. Yeah, I'll take the Disciple. I think it's going to be a little bit stronger in what we have. But kind of a tough call there. I think just the Scorpion tends to be my pet favorite. We're not really doing Heroic at all. Like I said, we want ways to... I'm going to assume I'm not playing Aspect of Hydra and just kind of hide it. Same with Nylea's Presence. They might end up making the deck, and it'll be good to know that I could splash. I don't have anything to splash now, so I won't take the Amulet. I do have 2 2-drops. Bronze Sable is pretty weak. I think it's more just about, do I want a strong sideboard card? I think I'm going to take the Feral Invocation because I don't have tricks yet, and I need kind of ways to, do something in combat. And Faith Foretold's fine, but we're not doing Heroic, so I'm over it. I guess we'll take Aqueous Form. This could actually be pretty good in our deck if we start getting some more fatties online. We're not going to splash white for Chronicler of Heroes and everything else. Who cares? Cavern Lampad's playable, I guess. I'm not playing Stymied Hopes pretty much ever. So I think I'll just cut a Borderland Minotaur, which is my favorite in the pack. Although Death Bellows Raiders is good, we have good ways to handle Death Bellows Raiders in terms of plenty of ways to be blocking. And yeah, here's an Agent of Horizons. I don't know if this is the first one we saw that tabled, or if it's the second. I wasn't really paying that close attention to where I was in the pack, but it's a really nice inclusion. Oh, we get both. There we go. Cool beans. Some somewhat playable cards as we near the end of this pack. This will pretty much never make it. Aqueous Form I'm hoping not to play, but since we are so heavy on creatures, it just might end up being fill up a spell slot. It won't be horrible. We're going to have big dudes. Aqueous Form on a Fairies Band Trumper seems pretty alright. At least I get to always get some value off of it. Ashen Rider, don't care about. I guess I could just take another Emissary, which is pretty much my only choice here. There's that Kragman Warcaller. If I had gone Minotaurs, which obviously was the wrong choice, and I'm glad I didn't go that route. But this guy makes, I think, the Minotaur deck viable. Thanks to Born of the Gods having just a much better suite of red spells in general, and a really nice collection of Minotaurs. I think we're going to see more Minotaur decks. Before it was kind of like a side archetype that if you just got really lucky and you happen to get a bunch of Minotaurs, it kind of could work, but wasn't too consistent. Born of the Gods might make it a little bit more consistent, so I'm stoked. And we'll let someone else pick up the Ashen Rider, because I could care less. Ooh, Leaf Crown Dryad. Baleful Eidolon, you're so pretty. Probably my favorite card ever in Theros. Leaf Crown Dryad's great. It's what we need in terms of running the 2-drops. Still bummed we're not seeing more things like Voyage's End, or I think now Time to Feed would be more appropriate over Leaf Crown Dryad, which is what I picked from the first one. But that was still the right pick. Initially. Boink. Slamming that guy. Ooh, okay. Lots of great cards here for us. I'm going to take the Time to Feed, even though a Nessie Asp would be grand. Horizon Chimera is insane. It's just this is what my deck needs right now to start going places. We have a lot of decent creatures. In fact, all of our creatures are pretty strong. Plenty of fortress. I don't know if the Sphinx's Disciple is going to make it. It could be too weak, just a 2/2 flyer at 5, considering if we end up having more, like I'd pick up another Nessie and Asp later on. But since I do have 5-drops, Time to Feed is kind of key right now. There's a small chance the Horizon Chimera tables, but I think the pack's too weak to really see that. Might even get the Wavecrest Triton if... No, someone in the archetype's going to grab it. Not planning on it. But if I get lucky, I'm very happy to have seen any of those table. Here at Vaporkin's fine. It's not exactly what this deck wants to do, but we are basically creature beatdown, and with having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 really good bestow dudes, and then 6, 7, like we're going to regularly be making a big old dude. So I'm not... I mean, Vaporkin is going to make the deck. I'm just bummed that I don't have something better in this 4th pick of the pack, something a little bit more powerful. And we really never saw any, Grip Tides, Voyage's Ends, or anything like that, which is kind of what the deck wants. So that's a bummer. We might run this Dissolve just because, again, we just need some types of ways to interact with our opponent's spells. Pneumatic Wall's not going to do a whole lot. Do we even have... We have a Time to Feed. And then I hid, like, some dorky cards besides that. Don't need the Unicorn to fix. Just a ramp. And we already have a Voyaging Satyr. Coloss of Akros. Not going to get there. And Benthic Giant. I'd rather have the Dissolve. Here's a Horizon Chimera, so that's cool. And a Sip of Hemlock. Interesting. Now we're starting to see a little bit more black from the right. Assuming I don't play Dissolve, which is not for sure the case. Aqueous Form as well. We just got tons of creatures. Ugh, what a bummer. They're all really good creatures, so I might be able to rest on those laurels and get there. But I'm not super confident. I'm really glad to have a Savage Surge, to be honest. Kind of embarrassing that that's what I'm stoked to grab here. But like I said, I just need ways to be interacting with my opponent. And if it's through combat, it's through combat. Ooh, okay, Artisan Sorrow is nice. This will probably make the main deck, seeing how light we are in any kind of removal, and there's so many artifacts and enchantments running around. This will definitely make main. Don't want a Stun-Charted Warrior, despite all my bestow dudes. I like my other 4-drops way better than Stun-Charted Warrior. I guess we'll take the Bronze Sable, possibly? Correct my war color table. No one ended up going Minotaurs from Born, so that's something to care about. You know what? I don't really need the Bronze Sable. It looks against Intimidate. I got good 2-drops. I think I'm more worried about the Ordeal coming down and not being able to handle it. Correct my war color. We have pretty decent-sized dudes to be able to trade away with it, and we're gonna have tons of creatures, so it's not like we're not gonna be able to block ever. Which do I care more for the sideboard? We already have an artifact enchantment hate. We'll just take a general counter, even though I'll play the counterspell more often. Counterspell, I mean dissolve, the one I hid. I was calling it counterspell. Don't really care about any of these. Yeah, not at all. I'll just take my color. There you go. Wow, Read the Bone shouldn't be there, so we're slam hating that. Don't want the wings, the Fleet Feather Sandals, I should say, at all. Mnemonic Wall, still not going to do anything in the deck with only 2 of 1 sorcery, 1 instant for a total of 2 targets. But it's in the colors. We'll get rid of her. There you have it. First Born of the Gods draft. Pretty interesting. Super fun. I've been jonesing for this for so long. Sorry for all the ums. I'm thinking so hard about my new cards here. Really just kind of got hooked up with some super fun bestow creatures, and then keeping to a very basic strategy of let's have some decent creatures and try to bash through and win. Give me a second. I'm going to go ahead and pause while I do the basic deck building. I'll bring you back shortly to chat about it all. Okay, here's the initial breakdown, and as mentioned in the draft, lots of creatures, not a lot of strong spells, so this draft strategy really is just going down on the beatdowns. Let's try to just pound out some nice dudes. We have a couple of evasions with the Agent of Horizons, and a flyer here or there, but mostly it's big stuff, get in. Now, there's a couple of things to consider from this sideboard. Mnemonic Wall and Centaurs are just worse 5-drops that we mentioned earlier because Mnemonic Wall has no targets. And again, we don't really want to go control-y. We want to be beating down each and every turn. That's kind of the deal with Floodtide Serpent. 4/4 for 5 is fine, but we don't need a random 5. And the enchantments we are playing aren't the ones that we want to return to our hand. If we had more heroic things happening, like a white-blue heroic deck, then that'd be fine. But we only have one Wave Crash Triton, which will interact well if we bounce, and then re-bestow something. But probably if I've bestowed one of my creatures, I just want to keep them bestowed on. I'm not looking to bounce them a whole bunch. So that's why that guy's in there. And the Setessan Starbreaker is fine, but we have the Artisan Sorrow, which, in wanting to have spells to play, we're playing over the Starbreaker, and Sorrow's infinitely better as an instant trick, and we have plenty of great 4s. At 18 creatures, I need to cut a card, and I'm looking to cut a creature, and I really think it's going to be the Sphinx's Disciple. Even though I do like it at common, I think that, again, our deck strategy is going to be beating down on curve, and what we want to do with our later mana is bestowing any of these guys onto already kind of like sizable threats, and just keep the pressure on with big dudes that we've built up. This Sphinx's Disciple at 5 mana, I think, is more of a control card where you stabilize, you've been blocking, then you 5 mana draw, play down this evasion dude, get in for a couple points, and start getting more card advantage. I don't think that's going to be the case with our deck. Though I really want to pay attention to it. I think it has the potential to be powerful, and against certain matchups, if I feel like it's going to be long and grindy, for whatever reason, this can come in. I'm mostly out of the sideboard debating about this aspect of Hydra. Like I said, our spells are already pretty weak. Savage Surge is fine, Time to Feed is good, Artisan Sorrow is good, and then besides that we have a Control Dissolve, which isn't what our deck wants, and it just tends to be pretty hard to get online. Feral Invocation, which is okay, but whatever, and then Aqueous Form, which could work, but nothing to write home about. So, number of these iffy cards, I'm down to bring Aspect of Hydra in. But this is one of those cycles where I'm not too sure how good the instants and sorceries are based on devotion, because they used to be such a dead card in your hand, and I'm a little conservative. I tend not to think of the best case scenario where I have a 2/3 and then a Disciple down, and now I'm getting for 1 mana instant +4/+4. I tend to think more on the wolf. All I have down is a Leaf Crown Dryad. This is a +1/+1, and that's it. That being said, I think that's kind of the floor for this guy. That's the worst it's going to be, because I'm always going to be targeting one of my creatures, and I only have 1, 2, 3, 4 creatures that don't have green in its devotion. We're a pretty heavy green deck. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so I think this guy is going to be worth it. If I had better spells, like more Time to Feeds, Voyage's Ends, etc., like I was mentioning earlier, I don't think Aspect of Hydra would be worth bringing in, to be honest. But it's pretty easy to cut one of my dorks here. And I think it's going to be the Dissolve. I have a pretty nice curve. I'm never going to really want to be leaving mana open until later in the game, and at that point, Dissolve's kind of, boring anyway. I don't have Voyage's Ends or Grip Tides to, have Dissolve and those in my hand to kind of play instants or anything. All I have is a Horizon Chimera to be leaving mana open and doing things on my opponent's turn. So I think Dissolve's going to be the weakest in this build. But again, I'm happy along, just like the Sphinx's Disciple, to remember it's here, pay attention to it. Might even remember that Stymied Hopes is another counterspell if I feel like it's going to be good in the matchup. But mostly we have really nice quality creatures. I don't think there's a single creature here that's weak. They're all good to very good. And so just relying on the creatures to do a lot of work and having a couple of combat type tricks, 1.5 removal spells, and then maybe this Oculus form will get some value off of being able to beat in with something huge. Yeah, I think that's the game plan. Should be a pretty easy split. I'm thinking 10-7. Oops, wrong color. Let me see if I believe that's true. Couldn't be hard to get the Siren of the Fanged Coast online, but because of double blue, but at 5 mana shouldn't be horrible. Plus we do have a Voyaging Satyr if we only end up having 1 island. Can this deck survive on 9 for us? No, I think 10's pretty important based on how much green we have. So 10-7 will do it. And I'll see you in round 1. This is a Swiss draft, just a heads up, because this is the pre-release. That's all they offer. So no matter what, you're going to get 3 matches out of me, even if I lose every single one. But the whole point, at least for me right now, doing my very, very first Born of the Gods draft is this stuff. Learning the new cards, getting to play with the new stuff, see what other people are already learning as they've drafted for a week or so in real life, because I don't get to do that. I only get to do it online. And see if we can learn something. So, I'm super stoked. See you shortly!